Welcome back, and thank you for staying tuned to Newsmaker Live with Laura. My guest this evening is Mrs. Flavia Sherry, and we've been having a conversation centered around violence and rape, and today being the International Day for the elimination. I know I keep referring to it in an off-bit way, but it is primarily the day commemorating the International Day commemorating the elimination of violence against women and girls, and St. Lucia we say children. Just a few more stats. Women who have been physically or sexually abused by their partners are more than twice as likely to have an abortion, almost twice as likely to experience depression, and in some regions 1.5 times more likely to acquire HIV as compared to women who have not experienced partner violence. It is estimated that of all women who were the victims of homicide globally, almost half were killed by intimate partners or family members, compared to less than 6% of men killed in the same year. A study conducted in New Delhi found that 92% of women reported having experienced some form of sexual violence in public spaces in their lifetime. Public spaces. And 88% of women reported having experienced some form of verbal sexual harassment, including unwelcome comments of a sexual nature, whistling, leering, and making obscene gestures in their lifetimes. So men, when you see the ladies pass by and you psst, or you whistle at them, or you leer at them, or you call them all sorts of names, you know, to get their attention, that is some sort of sexual harassment, and you need to stop. Because a lot of you don't know when to quit. And the harassment can get downright threatening. You have to remember that what you would not like done to you and your family and your loved ones cannot be right to do to somebody else's mother, somebody else's sister, somebody else's daughter, somebody else's niece, somebody else's aunt, somebody else's grandmother. Let us start doing the right things. Yes, so back on that. You know, earlier at the march, an interview was given by somebody that I have a lot of time for, a lot of respect for. I was talking, he was asked about sexual registry, sex offenders registry. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a very good idea, because I believe if we have zero tolerance for sexual abuse of any kind, and we name and shame the abusers, it is going to be a deterrent. Not only do we need penalties, etc., but we need societal sanctions. We need to be able to see that this is wrong, and that people need to be informed, because we may very well have less of that if people are aware of who the perpetrators are. So that is a position that I fully support. I believe that it would be helpful to this cause to have a sex offenders registry.
Let's hear from Dr. King on that topic.
Sex offenders registers, to who, to what purpose? I agree that sex offenders must be taken into care and removed from harming people. Whether everybody needs to, whether you need to be published on the front page of whatever newspaper or whichever media house is I think an issue that I would not support. So you have to be careful, I think, with the whole issue of sex offenders registry. I say, for who and to what purpose, right? Is it to name and shame? Or is it to provide care for people who need care? Is it to protect people who need protection, namely victims and so on?
Is it such a bad thing to name and shame, though?
But that is exactly part of the strategy that's required to deal with it, Laura.
You said earlier that we live in a small society where everybody knows everybody.
And that is exactly why, if part of the strategy is to ensure that it does not happen again. You need a registry. And one of the comments he made, he was asking, is it to protect the victim? It should be to also protect potential victims. Because if an individual knows that he's going to be identified as a sex offender, and that is why in more modern countries this is done, that in itself is going to be a deterrent. And you now, if you have a neighbor and you realize certain things about, let me just check with the police to see if that person happens to be on their register. And then you could know how to position yourself. You would know how to be more careful.
But what about rehabilitation? Some say because our society is so small, then it sort of precludes rehabilitation because everybody knows who you are. And how are you able to now rehabilitate?
At the end of the day, I believe that if somebody is genuinely rehabilitated, that person can easily be taken back into society, because we have persons who have committed all kinds of crimes.
But this is St. Lucia,
I understand that this is St. Lucia, but to a large extent, if you are truly rehabilitated, you are very continent, Laura. There are persons who would employ somebody even knowing that that person has been to Bordelais because of the drastic change in that individual. If you see a really very good change, the person is positive, or the track records show that this individual has been rehabilitated, of course that individual can be taken back. But there are also schools of thought that would even disagree with that. I believe that if you have a registry, and I think we need to start somewhere, at least that registry can be in safekeeping at the police, so that persons who want information can double check. It can be done at various levels, but I really believe that if we have some kind of naming of the individuals who commit those crimes, because we're not saying if somebody is suspected or accused that you put them in a registry. We're talking about a registry of those who have been convicted of molestation. We're not talking about a registry of people that people are assuming. If you have committed, this is a heinous crime, Laura. It's a very heinous crime. And in a small society, everybody will know anyway. But my thing is, if you have a register or a registry of those offenders, it helps even the police, because you can instantly go into that database and see if there's an issue going on and whether this person falls under that category.
Now, you said something, you mentioned that you're talking about not those people who have been accused and have not had their day in court. You know, a piece of information that just blows my mind every time I think about it, that if I inadvertently advertised or published or sent a picture to my friends or whomever of a person who's been alleged, you know, to have raped in the past, then I could be charged $50,000 plus 3 years in jail. But even with evidence against a person who's, you know, suspected of rape, and we say suspected because they have not had their day in court, could get off with $5,000, a bail of $5,000,
I find that
remain to be free for years while you suffer in anguish because perhaps you come across this person every day.
I think this becomes a problem when laws are not effectively, when you have, for example, in St. Lucia, we have so much that is in place to deal with that. We have a very good criminal code. We have so many systems in place. We have many government systems that are available. But what we need is for them to be effective. So, for example, if somebody is accused of rape, perhaps one of the things we should have is elimination of bail. And even if you have to have bail, the bail should be set at a level where it won't be very easy for you to even post bail. And if you post bail, there should be a very timely manner in which this particular case should be concluded. The problem comes when through the justice system there may be such unbelievable delays that the person might be running amok for the next 5-6 years, or what, 10 years? So I think it is not for want of laws or for want of whatever systems are in place within our society to deal with this, but it is how we deal with it. Because if you have somebody who is accused of rape, he's been charged of rape, and the court system, the police, everything works in tandem very quickly, then that problem you speak of is not going, it may exist, but not to the extent that it is happening now.
Flavia, there's some radical views that you've just espoused there. Elimination of bail, or make it so prohibitive that the person may not even be able to post a bail. you're impinging on somebody's human and civil rights. There are human rights activists who are just going to pounce on that. I remember years ago when Lon Theophilus was accused of rape, and the then government under, I think it was Dr. Kennedy Anthony, and Mario Mitchell, they were saying no bail law. Remember that law, that thing, the no bail law?
Was there a no bail law?
They had tried to pass a no bail law wherein you accused and you remain in jail until, so you remain.
So they tried to pass the law.
I can't remember, and I will stand corrected. So I know there are people out there who know a little bit more about it, but either they tried to pass it and there was a huge hue and cry over it, or it was passed and appealed. So somebody correct me, when we open the lines, please call and give us the exact, whether it was passed and appealed or they tried to pass it and that it didn't go through. But thereabouts, we tried that already. But then you have to remember that these people are citizens, and those people are, under the law, innocent until proven guilty. And herein lies the situation where, I know you did this, but you really cannot be prosecuted fully, because a lot of the times the victims are so threatened that they may just decide, they're seeing the person every day, especially when it is a person of a high standing, and I see you every day. Maybe it's a colleague and I have to go to work and I have to see you every day, and I just might decide, what, I just cannot deal with the aggravation and perhaps just migrate and not go through with it.
Hence the reason why I'm saying, Laura, that sometimes you need to take tough measures to deal with tough situations. Here we have a situation in St. Lucia where we have 58 reported cases of rape for the year. Very young people are not spared. A 97-year-old grandmother is not spared. That to me is a crisis. Crisis situations require tough measures. And what I'm saying is, if the system kicks in very quickly and somebody is not guilty, because people may be accused and they may not be guilty, if that system kicks in and everything is concluded in a very quick manner, then the person is free to go because he didn't commit a crime.
So I see where you're going with this.
Exactly. But if the person did commit that crime, again, it speaks to the point you made about then you having to see the person. You know how many cases over the years, sometimes I think about this and it still depresses me, where you work so hard, the police don't have vehicle, you drive everywhere to bring them. They don't have this, the victims, you carry them everywhere. You get the counseling, they don't have social workers, you bring in the social workers. Only to find in the end that this matter has taken so long that the level of delay in itself throws the keys out, because you have a lot of time for people to make wajma, for people to get fed up, to get frustrated, for people to forget. So the point I'm making is, if it is done in a very timely manner, because we have a crisis, so you can come up with crisis solutions. It has to be done wham, bam, bam. Let us deal with this conclusively and quickly. While all the evidence is there, people's minds are fresh on the issue, it's a crisis situation, you're guilty, we deal with you as a guilty party, you are registered.
So we need a certain court to deal with that kind of, specifically.
That's right. I'm saying because this has become such a serious problem in our society, we need to find ways of addressing it. So for example, if we have other situations that drag and take a lot of the court's time, you can afford to put these on a lesser priority. But right now this has to be a major priority, because no man or woman of conscience in this country should feel comfortable in that situation. Any man who has a daughter, who has a mother, who has a sister, who has an aunt, any man who just has a conscience should feel uncomfortable about the level of rape that is going on in the country. You have children going to school being raped. You have elderly being raped. I mean, this is extremely disturbing, Laura. And it requires, I think, and that is why I've always advocated for a very comprehensive and holistic response. We have to look at it on a societal level. Perhaps the time has come for us to have a very comprehensive national dialogue on the issue, to come up with those kinds of solutions and decide what is the best way forward in dealing with this level of gender-based violence.
What do you think about the Minister of Gender Relations suggestion about mace, using mace?
That could be a suggestion. I see nothing wrong in somebody.
It's illegal.
It is illegal.
And I haven't heard any moves afoot to make it legal.
Well, one begs the question why the comment was made. Maybe she made the comment because some moves are being made to make it legal. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But I know for a fact that there are many persons who are getting their mace and the pepper spray.
Now you see, this situation is causing us to turn into criminals,
and that is why
we may be petty criminals, but if we're criminals,
that is
anyway.
why I'm saying that maybe, because we're speaking in a vacuum there, the minister could have made the comment because she's probably advocating at the level of cabinet
to have
the law changed. We're not privy.
But we need to hear these things, because at the end of the day, today at the march, where was this minister? This minister was nowhere around, and you would have thought this was an apolitical march. This was organized by an NGO. Where was the minister?
What's the name of the NGO?
Raise your voice. Raise your voice.
Because the members of CAF were asked to be a part of it, and naturally they got the support because we have some resources to ensure that our people participate in those things. But if it's apolitical and everybody should go, I think every individual who is concerned can make their contribution at varying levels, because we're sitting here too and we may not necessarily know the reason why somebody is absent, but everybody can speak at various intervals, whether it is from your desk, you call a press conference, whether it is you send out a press release, whether it is you make a statement, whether it is, there are many different ways that people can advocate against gender-based violence.
I just happen to think that in a situation like this is a day that's commemorated every year without fail on the 25th of November. I think as the minister responsible for this, even if you're not going to be there, and there could be, like you said, a very valid reason, send someone, send a message, send a solidarity message. We're due for another break. When we come back, we've been focused a little bit on rape, but when we come back, we'll talk about some other forms of abuse and violations against women.